Let me run through a field in the night. Let me lift from the ground till my soul is in flight. Let me sway like the shade of a tree. Let me swirl like a cloud in a storm on the sea. Wish me on my way through the dawning day. Wanna flow, wanna rise, wanna spill, wanna grow in a grove on the side of a hill. I don't care if the train runs late, if the checks don't clear, if the house blows down. I'll be off where the weeds run wild, where the seeds fall far from this earthbound town. And I'll start to soar. Watch me rain till I pour. Catch a ship that'll sail me astray. Get caught in a wind, I'll just have to obey till I'm flying away. Without wondering why, finding myself in a burst for the sky. I'll just roll, let me lose all control. Wanna float like a wish in a well, free as the sound of the sea in a shell. I don't know, but maybe I'm just a fool. I should keep to the ground, I should stay where I'm at. Maybe everyone has hunger like this, and the hunger will pass, but I can't think like that. All I know is somewhere through a clearing, there's a flickering of sunlight on a river long and wide. And I have such a river inside. Let me run through a field in the night. Let me lift from the ground till my soul is in flight. Let me sway like the shade of a tree. Let me swirl like a cloud in a storm on the sea. Wish me on my way through the dawning day. I wanna flow, wanna rise, wanna spill, wanna grow on the side of a hill. Wanna shift like a wave rolling on. Wanna drift from the path I've been traveling upon before I am gone.
Whew. That was magnificent, Matthew. Thank you so much. Wow. Today is my 1-year anniversary of being your associate minister. Thank you. And I'm really grateful to be here. I have enjoyed this year. It has transformed my life. I moved here, and then we moved, and then we moved, and we're here. So it's good. It's been a lot of moving going on. And now it's going to be a lot of deep rooting going on. It's time for us to take our roots and get deep. And I chose this selection this month because we're celebrating a month of freedom. We're celebrating a month of our anniversary of our country being, declaring our freedom, declaring our independence. And freedom is such an important word. It's important to all of us, and because something that Ernest Holmes said, I really love that he points this out in such a nice way. He says, the divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God-ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom. Thus, the inherent nature of man is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. So then I picked this book of the month, The Sun Does Shine, How I Found Life and Freedom on Death Row. It was Oprah's 2018 pick for her book club, her summer book club, written by a man named Anthony Ray Hinton. It's a true story. And on April 3rd in 2015, Anthony Ray Hinton, he goes by Ray, was released from prison after spending nearly 30 years in solitary confinement in Alabama's death row. Mr. Hinton is one of the longest-serving condemned prisoners facing execution in America to be proved innocent and released. When he was 29 years old, he was accused of committing a crime that he had no possibility of having committed. He is working on a lockdown supermarket facility 15 miles away from where the crime happened. He was accused of murdering a restaurant manager. The victim survived and identified him in a lineup. And the police searched his mother's home, found an old .38 caliber pistol, and decided it was the murder weapon. They also had other crimes that they decided to also clump into this one crime and say that he did. He did have an alibi, but the police coerced people to lie. And they did not have money to support him. He didn't have money to support him. He was a person who did not grow up in wealth. He grew up in poverty. So he didn't have money to support himself with a good lawyer. And he was in Alabama that was faced with the old Jim Crow laws, as Anthony Ray Hinton is a black man. And after going to prison, he thought, like, I'm innocent. They would be able to acquit me. They would be able to get me out of here as soon as possible. I didn't do it. And it took him 30 years to prove his innocence. How does one survive in a place like that? How does one survive on death row with all the other death row inmates? What he realized is that freedom is a state of mind. He had 3 years where he was in a black cloud. He lost his faith. He lost his hope in humanity. He was just a nice guy, and he got accused of doing something that he didn't do. And he thought for sure the Bible verse said, and you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. He thought that would come into being month after month after month, and it didn't happen. And after 3 years, he said in the book, he was in complete silence for those 3 years. He said, I wasn't expecting to end 3 years of silence. I was born with the same gift from God we are all born with, the impulse to reach out and lessen the suffering of another human being. It was a gift, and we each had a choice whether or not to use this gift. You see, one of his fellow inmates' mother had just died, and he was crying uncontrollably. And he found out that his inmate, his friend in prison, had lost his mother. And even though he hadn't spoken for 3 years, he realized that he had a choice. He said, despair was a choice. Hatred was a choice. Anger was a choice. I still had choices. And that knowledge rocked me. I could choose to give up or hang on. Hope was a choice. Faith was a choice. And more than anything else, life was a choice. Compassion was a choice. He realized that so many of his life choices had been taken away from him, but he still had choices. He could choose to reach out and help the suffering person, and he does. He breaks his silence to help the man who's suffering. He shows him some compassion, and he comforts his fellow inmate. Now, they can't see each other. They're like in cells where they can't see each other. They just get to hear each other's voices. So they don't know what people look like. They don't know each other's names. But he decided to start learning people's names because they were all called by their number. Prisoner Z38. And he wants to know the people's names that are in there with him. And he knew that some people were innocent like him on death row. And he knew that there were some people who were not innocent on death row. But he knew he could make a choice to be a person of impact, to make a difference in somebody else's life. Ernest Holmes says, your own choice has decided you. And I wonder, do you have any area in your life where you don't feel free? Do you feel like your health or your work or your finances are restricting you or limiting you? And how can you feel free? How can you start to make an impact or a difference? Well, Ray knows that he has to choose to do the best he can with what he has. Now, I don't know anybody in this world who had to suffer what he's suffered through. I can't compare, but I do know that he chose to make a difference where he was at. He chose to realize that he's in a certain place and circumstances, and he can be a person of influence for the better no matter what. He befriended a man named Henry Hayes. And Henry Hayes was a man who he did not know was on death row because he was brought up in the KKK, and he had lynched a black man, a 19-year-old. And Ray is friends with Henry for like 2 years before he finds out what he's in there for. And when he discovers it, he tells Henry, he says, hey, I just figured out who you are. And Henry's silent for a minute. And Henry says, you know, I only knew what my parents taught me. And all they taught me was hatred. And Ray says, you know, I grew up in a family where my mom loved me unconditionally. And she taught me how to love. And she taught me forgiveness, and she taught me compassion. And he said, Henry, I want you to know that I forgive you and I have compassion for you. And I've appreciated our friendship for these last couple of years. And Henry had never been really cared about by anybody in that way. Can you imagine a black man on death row making friends with somebody who's on death row for hanging a black man? I mean, what kind of compassion do you have to have? But I think underneath all that is the idea that we're all redeemable. No matter what you've done, no matter what your past is, we're all redeemable. And Ray knows that, and he knows that hating people doesn't get us anywhere, but loving people does. Allowing ourselves to be open to the idea that there is hope in the world and that love can transform things. There was a time when Henry and Ray got visiting hour at the same time, and Henry's dad, who was the chief person of the KKK, I don't know what that title is, but was there visiting Henry, and Ray is there visiting his family. And Henry decides to call Ray over to meet his dad. Didn't go that well, I'm just saying. But he does take a stand, and he says, Dad, I want you to meet Ray. This is my best friend. He cares about me. And while his father did not talk to him, it was a stand for something. Even in death row, somebody was transformed. Now, Henry did get executed for his crimes. And Ray was very sad about it because he missed his friend. But I just wonder, this man got out of prison in 2015. 30 years he was on death row. And the guards and the prisoners all wanted him to be free because they knew that he was making a difference in the world. He said, I realized that the state of Alabama could steal my future, but they couldn't steal my soul or my humanity. He said, someday I'm going to walk out of there, but until then I was going to use my mind to travel the world. I had so many places to go and people to see. See, it didn't matter what his outside circumstances were. He created inner circumstances that created a freedom for him. And what we teach here is that your mind creates your reality, and that whatever you believe to be true manifests. As a matter of fact, one of his favorite Bible verses that he read was Mark, chapter 11, verse 24. What things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you will receive them and you shall have them. And he believed that he was a free man. And he prayed for 30 years. Now, I don't know how long people need to pray for a manifestation, but that is some faith right there. And what kind of faith do you have? What are you knowing is the truth in your soul? What do you believe is possible about yourself, and what do you believe is possible about this community? What do you believe is possible about this country? Because you're the ones who get to create the possibility for our future. And if you're going to define the story about who you are, you might as well make a good story. We define ourselves. We say, oh, I am this because of my job, or I'm this as a daughter or a brother. We define ourselves by what we do often, but not necessarily by who we are. And we tell stories about our past. I grew up as an abused child. I did drugs. I did this. I messed up here. But you can either choose to make up a story as the victim or the victor. Ray Hinton chose to make a story about being a victor. And I think that if he can do that, so can you. If he can take a stand for love on death row, what can we do here together? What's possible for all of us? What could we all do collectively as a community for this world? There is oppression in this world. But oppression is only what happens when somebody defines your story. Overcoming oppression is rooted in learning how to shape your own story and make it worth telling. Eric Butterworth said, "Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you." We have the power to rewrite, reinterpret, reinvent ourselves and our lives. Even when something terrible and traumatic occurs, there is some essence within us that is never hurt, that is never wronged, and that is never wrong. It is love itself, and it's the essence of what God is, and it's contained in each and every one of us. And there is a place there that we each get to discover who we really are. There's a place where whatever you did in your story, it does not really define who you are. Because a lot of us have pasts that maybe we regret. But that doesn't mean you cannot tap into the essence of who you are and reveal that truth right here and now. Each and every word you say, each and every idea that you do is a new creation for the future. So you can start speaking a story about how you're going to be and are now the change for the world. Now imagine this man, 30 years, and he found freedom on death row. He chose to tell his story because he wants to change how our criminal justice system is. There shouldn't be a system that is racist, that allows more people because of the color of their skin to go into prison, especially if they're innocent. He believes in justice, where if you do commit a crime, there is some type of reaction in society. But if we're in a system that doesn't work, why are we still perpetuating it? It's like if I went to a doctor and I was like, "Hey, doctor, I have a cold." And he's like, "Yay, here's some leeches. Why don't you put them on to kind of bleed you out so you can feel better?" And I'm like, "No, that is not working for me. I'm going to go see a new doctor." Well, we have the same thing going on. There's many areas in our world that are not working. And they're not working because they're made of an old consciousness that built them, and they're still perpetuating. So now we have an opportunity to be the ones who are making the change and creating a new conscious of possibility in our world at this time, because we are now the creators of what's going on. And so we get to dream up a new future, we get to dream up a new idea, and then we get to be the ones, God's hands and feet on earth, making it happen. Now, I have dreams that there's no homelessness. I have dreams that this world is stewarded brilliantly by its inhabitants. I have dreams that there is no more poverty. I have dreams that when somebody walks into a faith community, that no matter who they are, how they look, whatever their station in life, that they are welcomed and loved exactly as they are. Now, we can be the creators of this dream. We can be the ones who start this idea of possibility and believe it to be true and happening on this planet right now. And then we can be the ones who take action to allow that manifestation. See, it starts first here in our minds. And that's where the true freedom is. And then we get to dream up and create our idea of possibility. Ray Hinton dreamed and created a possibility that he was a free man and he was walking free from death row and that he was exonerated from all his crimes, and it happened. But it took persistence and it took time, and he knew that he was also a person who can make a difference in this world. And so he's sharing his story. And maybe that's you too. Maybe you have a story to share. And maybe your story is a story of transformation as well. But maybe you haven't gotten there yet. So I encourage you to know that there is hope for you. There's hope for me. There's hope for us all. There's hope for this country. There's hope for this planet. It's because we're all here right now, collectively together, making a new choice and a new possibility for our future. And every choice I make can push us a little bit forward for the better. And if all of us collectively do that together, just imagine where we'd be. We don't have to wait for Superman or for somebody else to save us from the world. We get to be the ones who are the new superheroes. Morgan Freeman, in an interview in 60 Minutes, said that if we want to end racism, we have to stop just talking about it. We have to stop accepting the cultural status quo that says it's just how it is and how it's always has been. We get to realize, as Judge Thomas Troward said, that principle is not bound by precedent. We don't have to say that just because things happened in the past or they're happening right now, then that's the way they have to be for the future. As a matter of fact, things are created out of newness, out of new ideas and new possibilities. If it hasn't been done, then that means we're the ones to do it. That means that's why we showed up here, is to be the example of possibility for each other. And it doesn't have to be big. How big an impact could Ray Hinton make on death row? It was little things every day that he did. But he kept dreaming and he kept having hope. Einstein said that you can't solve the problem at the same consciousness that created the problem. And I know that hurt people hurt people. There's some people here in this room, I imagine, who were abused growing up. And when you had children, you said, it ends here. This stops with me. And you moved the dial forward just a little bit more. So who are you choosing to be? How are you choosing to create your own freedom in your life? And are you willing to make a difference in somebody else's life? Because everything you do, everything you say, is a reflection of who you choose to be now. It doesn't have to be who you were yesterday, or who you grew up to be, or what society made you. You can choose to make this day a new day and be free in who you want to be. You can choose to create a new reality. Now, I know Ray Hinton may not have chosen to be on death row, but I do know that God chose through him to make an impact in the world. And maybe you didn't choose your circumstances, or maybe you did. But who are you going to choose to be now that you know that you can be free? In today's world, there's many things that we're called to stand up for. Equality for every living being, clean water and food for all people, treating our environment in a mindful way, treating each other in a kind and respectful manner. These are all little things that we can do that make a difference. We can make a lonely person smile. We can make a dog wag its tail. We can make a cat purr. Or we can give water to a wilting plant. We can't solve everything, but we can do something about the problems under our noses. That's a quote from Rachel Carlson from The Great Peacemakers. As I was thinking about freedom, I found this article by this woman, Lori Deshim, about what it means to be free from tinybuddha.com. She said, when you choose to forgive, instead of seeing the world through bitter eyes, you are free. When you learn from your mistakes instead of letting them define you or cripple you, you are free. When you love yourself regardless of what other people think, you are free. When you accept uncertainty instead of stressing about what you don't know, you are free. When you embrace chaos instead of struggling for control, you are free. When you recognize that we're all imperfect and then resist the urge to fight that, you are free. When you choose to appreciate what you have instead of lamenting what you've lost, you are free. And when you plant yourself in this moment and do what you can to make the most of it, you are free. I end with the words of Rumi. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. What are you choosing to change today? Let's pray. I recognize and know that there is an ineffable presence. The glory of the universe, which I call God. It is love. Its nature is love. And it expresses itself in and through me and in and through each person here. Each person online who's listening to this, watching this. That we are all awakened together as part of this unified whole, knowing that one person who's suffering means that we're all suffering. So I choose to transcend that suffering and be a place of love in this world. And I know that everything I speak, say, and do comes from this source of love. Everything that I am reflects and radiates this love. And I forgive myself. And I forgive my past. And I know that really, God doesn't need to forgive because God never judged in the first place. And so I just settle into that love and I allow it to permeate my day as I choose a new life today. I choose to be in a world where people see deeply into each other's eyes and see the gift that is there to be given. And so I choose to be a contribution to this world, and I know that each and every person here awakens to who they are, and they choose to be a contribution to this world. And we contribute this amazing idea of possibility that absolutely is a force for good in the world. And so as I allow that force to move me and motivate me, I surrender into it. I know that I don't have to effort or push or shove, that God is doing all the heavy lifting, and I just get to be in the love day by day, moment by moment. And I see the truth revealing itself right now. And for that, I am grateful. So I settle into this gratitude. I settle into this appreciation. I love myself. I love each person here. I love the revelation that is Anthony Ray Hinton. And I love the revelation that is each person right here making a difference. And for that, I'm grateful. And so it is.